Cathy Engelbert addresses the media, WNBA Finals. Aces win the ball game, but the main story was on Cathy Engelbert. And we want to welcome you to the Money Mike Syndicated Radio podcast. We want to circle back and cover that for you. Very interesting how Cathy Engelbert addressed the media and really took a stance of, personally, I was unaware. And that's almost impossible, but I mentioned before that if you haven't actually went in there and filed a grievance and haven't filed protocol. So it was asked a question to me, Mike, what about Christy Sides? And Christy Sides went to the media and really talked in detail about the officials last year with Clark and came across what happened with that, or was that part of the discovery, or is that part of it? Well, folks, at the end of the day, you can talk to the league office, you can call the league office, but if the players' union that hasn't filed a grievance, and that's a big loophole here. And also, Cathy Engelbert stated that Napheesa Collier's statement, there were several inaccuracies in there. And now what you're moving into is the WNBA was in a position, and again, without a commissioner, the WNBA, you look at the history, didn't have a commissioner. And after going to Adam Silver basically said you need your own commissioner. Now, a lot of times the commissioner is working for the owners. And what Money Mike had a serious challenge for WNBA players, for fans, for everybody out there with Cathy Engelbert, as you looked at, okay, Money Mike, and I still got to be accountable for that flip-flop after I dug in and did due diligence. The one thing that I think everybody is really missing here is Cathy Engelbert. She does work for the owners, and congratulations. Someone sent me something on Circle Logic, and I had to agree with you. I said, hey, you know what? They need a little bit more substance, right? They need a little bit more substance. And so we don't just say, well, Cathy Engelbert works for the WNBA owners, but why? Who, what, when, where, and why is to move to get to the logic and critical thinking of what's happening here today. Now, when you look at Cathy Engelbert works for the owners are not going to terminate someone or fire someone that makes them revenue, that makes them money. Now, everyone has come back and say, okay, well, this is not all about money. It's not all about money. So let's take the word money out of the equation, and let's use the word economy. Okay, that's what the WNBA players are doing. They're building their own economy. Now, what Cathy Engelbert also got in there, as she said, she has high value integrity for the stakeholders. Who are the stakeholders? Those are the players. And what she is open, she says, you have an open door to me. You have an open door to my office. You don't have to knock, basically. But the WNBA players from this stage on, they're going to be watching a lot of videotape. They're going to watch a lot of videotape. And really, it's not a videotape. I apologize. It tells you how I go all the way back to a VHS. It's going to be watching a lot of webinars, right? You're going to be watching a lot of online training about the WNBA, about the WNBA officials, and about the WNBA code of conduct violations, right? So with Napheesa Collier, she got ahead of herself. And this was what was challenging to me. Cathy says they're meeting. They're meeting now. And I took Napheesa Collier's statement as she doesn't care. And the league doesn't care, but the league is meeting now. Went a little bit harder forward, okay, Cathy Engelbert, because she went in there and said, look, this is my mission, okay? I believe in the fans. I believe in the ownerships. I believe in the owners. And it's basically a situation where I have my heart into this. This has affected my family. And I want to come here and let you know that we're willing to do whatever it takes to please the stakeholders, right? Now, that's different than the stockholders. They're saying the players have an investment here too. So there's thousands and thousands of different ways of going about it. It's just which way do the players, the stakeholders, want to go about it, because it circled me into the position the WNBA did not have a commissioner. What that tells me is Cheryl Reeve was the commissioner, okay? And now Becky was probably the co-commissioner. Folks, I'm surface communicating, but I listen to this and I'm digging into this. I'm saying the WNBA didn't have a commissioner. Okay, so they've operated the league without any direction or leadership. And now leadership is coming into the WNBA, and whenever that happens, I don't care what business you're in, it's going to cause rip. It's like merger and acquisitions. And by bringing in a commissioner who works for the owners but supports the players, it's causing, okay, quite a bit of friction and lack of communication within the players is really a tough thing to get after. Now, when you look at it, with the league and the growth the league has had, and what Cathy Engelbert is expressing, I've got everybody engaged, and I kind of knew this because I was really trying to understand, okay, how are you going to fire somebody that's making the money? It's like firing a stockbroker, right? That's made you $10 million, and next year you're going to fire them. But they're making money. Now, here's the riff. The portrayal of it, it looks like the owners are making money and the players are not making money. Cathy Engelbert went to the podium and said, we are working and we have a proposal on the table to increase their salaries and benefits tremendously. Tremendous increase. So when she said that, it made me think, okay, they've got a number that they're at. We don't know the number as the public. We don't know the negotiating table and what that number is. But the number could be so high that it may cause the public to be in shock, and the public may say, wait a minute, because the public is normally going to side with the owners. Whenever you get into this type of feud, normally the public takes the owner's side. Now, the owners are not in public opinion is what Napheesa Collier is doing. She wants to say, look, let's take this case to public opinion. But the owners are coming in, and what Cathy is saying is the owners are coming in with a $325 million investment. And folks, I apologize. I want to walk you through this so you clearly understand and the relevance of the salaries. And if I could do my best, I'd love that one. And that was good for Money Mike, because he says, Mike, you know what, you're doing a lot of singular communication where you're saying A equals B, but you're leaving it out. Well, the owners who are coming in, and you've got an expansion draft that you got to get to, right? And they've got to be able to know what those salaries are, and they got to be able to know what that's going to be to kick off the season with the expansion draft. Money Mike's got a whole nother feeling. I don't even think the WNBA needs to have a draft the way players move around so much. But let's dig down and let's take it from another angle today of what is actually happening, because those owners who are putting up the $325 for acquisition fee to build an economy, right? To build an economy, because I've been utilizing the terminology of money, right? And then one person came back, and I appreciate, hit me with Deuteronomy 8:18, right? Deuteronomy 8:18 states that he that earneth the wages with holes in the bag, right? Meaning you're going to make lots of money, but you're going to also lose lots of money because you don't have Christ as your center priest, and you're not doing it for the edification and building of the kingdom. And that's where Money Mike comes from. As you notice, I believe in being blessed, and I believe in change, and I believe I've been sent here. I believe I'm a relic. I believe that, hey, a lot of times I see things that people just don't see clearly. And then I love the team because they hit me. They say, Money Mike, you giving us the flip side. Yes, that's what Money Mike wants to do. I want to give you the flip side, so when you hear one person say something like Napheesa Collier, but then you hear Cathy Engelbert come back and say, you guys need to join the party and you need to do the work, right? Because now you're taking it to a different level where you're saying, hey, you don't care about us as stakeholders. They're calling you stakeholders. They're not calling you players. Okay, that's the difference. And in the NBA, you're a player. Here, they're saying you're a stakeholder. We're trying to get you as much money as we can, but also understand that doesn't really say very much what Cathy Engelbert just said, because once you put the expenses into it, that's going to decrease the salary. And somewhere, folks, for the owners and Cathy Engelbert and the owners she lined up, because let me tell you who she lined up. She lined up, came in here 220, and I'm going to go back and pull it all out and say, okay, what was going on in 220? What was going on in 216? What was going on in 212? What was going on in 208? And how the progression of the league has came. Now you're at this stage where the owners have to be expansion owners. They've got to come in and they've got to build out their platform. We've already paid our fee to get in the league. Now we got to build the economy. Every time the WNBA owner puts up $325, that's an owner, folks, that's seeking to build an economy in the community, okay, that's going to foster and develop and nurture the children and kids and players in that community. So this is where it's different now for the WNBA, because I don't want people to get the feeling or understanding. Money Mike's always talking about money. I'm talking about the economy. I'm talking about the transfer of wealth. When I talk about intellectual property, that's to let the ladies know this is a digital world today. AI is involved. They can take the voice, they can take your face, they can take everything you own, okay? And they can utilize it within the rights. That's why I said it's not about a salary anymore. Okay, if you come out and say, hey, I'm going to pay you this much money, well, that means the reason as Master P, some of you guys may know who Master P is, right? And Master P, and I did 3 tours of duty with P. I had a chance to go on and go play against him. After I played against him and my best friend and coach's corner, Paul Nunn, are actually really, really good friends. And what Master P did, he said, wait a minute. If you're offering me $1 million or $5 million, I must be worth way more than that, right? And so that's kind of what you got here as to the owners, okay? Don't get it twisted. Nobody's confused, and Money Mike's not double talking or anything like that, and Cathy's not double talking. But she's coming back to say, okay, let me clear some things up, that the owners are going to already invest their $325 million. That's just to get it started. Now you got to go hire people. And so what Cathy was saying, it's not only the economy, but we're giving people jobs. Okay, the WNBA, this is what these women are doing. The women, see, what people believe is the women are just playing basketball. Well, it's more than just playing basketball now, all right? Because when you start expanding in the other territories and you're actually working with these owners, and when Cathy, who was in the business and had the relationships, she brought a lot of people to the table. Cathy Engelbert since 220 has been pounding the pavement, asking people to invest in the WNBA. She told them this is going to be the best investment you ever made. They turned her down. She kept going out there pounding the pavement for these women. And here's where it gets a little twisted. It gets a little confusing, because I know with Duluth, some people broke back when she was removed from the board. You know why she's removed off the Duluth board? Okay, let me give you, not to just say anything confusion or bad, or was it her and her judgment? It's because she is giving full autonomy and a commitment to the WNBA as a commissioner. I cannot serve on a board when I'm building a league out. I don't have the time, okay? I can come back, but now if you want me to be a board in the chair and lead the organization that I was CEO, I'm no longer in that position. I'm no longer in that role. Now, being in that position at Duluth and being there opened the door to the WNBA to partnerships that they would never even touch. They would never even touch. But she's brought this to the table, and she's brought it to the table with the WNBA owners. And they are making money. Folks, let me just share this with you. They've been trying to fire Roger Goodell, the NFL commissioner, for probably the last 15 years, right? But it doesn't matter that they want to do that, because they don't have the power to do it. And what do I mean by that? Roger Goodell has built an NFL economy to where the revenue share used to be, it can be announced, it was a $100 revenue share. $100 million for each team. That's how much profit the league makes. The other thing kept going up. Now it was 2 million, 200 million, then it became 300 million, then it became 400 million. Now it's almost up to 500 or maybe more that the owners are going to make on revenue that comes back to the league. Okay, but that revenue is building an economy, right? Because you have so many jobs that have to be given to build the stadiums, to put the people in, and that's like being in Washington, D.C., Philly, or New Jersey. I mean, they got like 3-4 stadiums right there, but they created an economy. The WNBA players are creating an economy, and that's what I think everybody is missing. Now, with Napheesa Collier, that bugs me, okay, because it doesn't make sense. And when I say it doesn't make sense, here's what the power, let's just think about it. I want to talk about the power of a WNBA owner or an NBA owner or an NFL owner. How much power do they have versus other leagues? So you take the WNBA and you take Unrivaled. And here's Napheesa Collier came and made her statement. And rightfully so, it sparked a war. It took all the attention off the WNBA Finals. Nobody's watching the WNBA Finals because you're watching this, right? So it really doesn't make any sense. But when you do these type of things and you're in a negotiation, you really have to understand how much power the other team has. You really have to understand that you may find yourself going up against J.P. Morgan, right? And if you're going up against J.P. Morgan and Edison loses a contract, I mean, he's just going to go over and get Tesla's contract because they're going to bully you, right? So what do? Okay, let's figure it out. How much is Unrivaled paying you, right? Okay, well, they're paying me $350,000 a year. All right, no problem. I'll add $350,000 to your salary, so you don't have to play Unrivaled anymore, right? You're too big of an asset. Caitlin Clark, and I try to tell everybody, that's too big of a risk. It's too big of a risk. There's too many opportunities that are available for her to go out and play Unrivaled league, right? So you got to look at that, and Collier's got to look at that, because now what Napheesa Collier did, she woke up the gorillas. She woke up Goliath. She woke them up, and she woke them up high, because what did Napheesa Collier start doing in America? There's a couple things you can do, and there's a couple things you can't do. Money Mike understands I'm an African-American male, and I stay on my side of the tracks. You know what that means? I don't mess with them people's money, right? Because when you start talking and messing with people's money, right, you're messing with these people's money. These people, this is the same thing. I get Cathy's job. I mean, the job I did for AT&T is very similar, right? Because she's got trusted partners. She's got people that she has relationships built with. The only difference between me and her, well, AT&T says, hey, Mike, here's 25, 50, 100 million. Cathy's over there dealing with billions of dollars, right? You're talking about billions, right? And that's her portfolio of clients who want to do business with the WNBA. They're not short of a billionaire over there. What they're short of is structure. And what you're short of is a commissioner that, if I'm not mistaken, she's the only commissioner the league has ever had. The league did not have a commissioner, and that's what caught me by surprise when I came 2 years ago, because I started to understand, are you serious? You have the coach, that you have not only the coach is the general manager, and the general manager is also the president of the team, right? So they didn't have these positions, and now they brought in talent to run these positions. But here, no, sure, I could go on and on and on about this period, but here's where it gets really interesting, right? Because you got to look at the media that's showing up. You got the Associated Press, right? You got Holly Rowe, you got Malika Andrews, and you got the Washington Post, right? Because now you got to have Cathy's media come out, right? So it's not just the regular media. Now Cathy media comes out, and she starts answering the question. Now, what did ESPN? And a lot of people want to know, well, you're going to play a 7-game series. What are you going to do in this series to stop the officials from the violence? And she said, look, Cathy was honest. Said, I didn't even know they did this, because I know commissioners are not involved in the day-to-day operations of officials. But Cathy said, look, they evaluate every play, which they do. They evaluate every foul, which they do, right? They evaluate the player and how the player reacted. There's a full-on revaluation of every game. Now, when you get to the WNBA Finals and this 7-game series, I wouldn't want to be an official in this one. But the best they got to give you is on the floor right now. Now, you may have to go out and get some others, but that's just the way it is. Now, when you look at the other thing, the target that was missed here, folks, and no one wants to bring it up, and this concerns me because you got a lot of intelligent people at the floor, but here's a target that was missed, the schedule. Nobody wants to talk about the schedule. The schedule, when I say pick a target, right? I just don't want to say, hey, pick a target. Let me tell you what pick a target means. You could pick the officials. You could pick the salary, right? You could pick the pregame or the postgame media or whatever you want to put, the speaking arrangement. You could pick a lot of areas. But the one area nobody wants to pick is the schedule. The schedule is causing the injuries. The schedule is causing the injuries, folks. And let me just don't tell you that, but let me go a little deeper. When you have a college player that plays 30 games and then has to come back and play 44 games, okay, that's 74 games in a short period of time. That rookie's out of gas. And the longer you run and the weaker you get, and when finally there's nothing left, like Mitchell just started getting cramped, that would make me seem, and you can start shivering because you have players out there with sickle cell, but the schedule is too much. The schedule, Money Mike's just going to put it out there, guys. The schedule is what's causing the injuries. Let's just call it what it is, okay? The WNBA schedule is causing injuries, all right, because you're playing too many games, okay, a year. That's number one, and people rebut that by saying, Money Mike, they go over and season play. Folks, they go over and proceed. They may play 2 games in 7 days. That's it. They're not playing like the WNBA. Nobody plays as fast as the WNBA. And then you get to it now, you know, what was really interesting to me, okay, with Cathy Engelbert is how you, with all the injuries, how you got these ladies to add 4 more games to the schedule. See, every time you start adding more teams, more games, and eventually the WNBA has got to block dates in these stadiums, or they got to really block other events, because now these games are coming to the stadium. There's nothing you can do now. There's nothing you can do, but the schedule is right there in front. And you want to look at this and say to yourself, okay, how are we going to get out of this? And they talked about the lockout, right? And Cathy Engelbert talked about an extension. Okay, it says they're meeting daily. So you're telling us what you want in public opinion, which you should do, but you're not letting us know that they're meeting continuously. They're meeting at the finals. They're meeting here, and I don't know if Napheesa Collier is involved in those meetings, and it made it seem like she's not. Now, what the league is going to do with the officials, they're going to put a committee together. As she said, we'll put together the committee. We are inviting our stakeholders to be a part of the committee. See, so now players are going to have to get involved, and they're going to have to be involved throughout this. Coaches are going to have to be involved. They're going to have to be involved throughout this entire process, because what Cathy is saying is, okay, you guys started out the gate going against me, against the players, where I have an open door. And it also showed players have access to Cathy, right? They have access. So it's more or less where she has never turned down the access. She's committed. She left her firm, left her company, and really just committed to the WNBA. And then on top of that, Adam Silver went and selected her because she was already working in the WNBA. And here's where it comes down to, is for WNBA players, they're going to have to learn the rules. Okay, not just partially know the rules and just go out there and play. You're going to have to know the rules of the WNBA basketball game, because it's going to be hard for them to make complaints, as Collier did, and you're going to have to know what steps the union has taken, because the union, folks, the union should be out in front of this, not Collier, right? And so the union, it's almost like there's a union siding with the WNBA, and the union, I mean, normally you get in these kind of talks, I mean, here comes Gwen Jackson, here comes the leader of the CBA who's not talking, right? It's not talking. So is this real or is this a skit? But at the end of the day, I can tell you this, that Cathy Engelbert has made it perfectly clear, okay, that she is committed. Cathy Engelbert played basketball too, folks. All right, she's played the game, comes from the family of the game, and to come back, she was because there was certain ESPN, Malika Andrews asked, okay, I want to know, did you say this about Caitlin? Did you say the 16%, the platform, everything, all the money she made was because of Cathy Engelbert? Now, I'm going to address that for you because Cathy Engelbert said no, okay, said no. Cathy Engelbert, what she's really trying to let us know, these players who have this access to a WNBA platform, okay, without that platform, you're not making any money. Okay, without that platform, on Rival's not making any money because a Rival depends on the NBA and the WNBA to make the players marketable, and then they're piggybacking off of that. Really, they're just using them on a part-time basis. Come on over here down at the WNBA is giving you all this, the platform for you to showcase your skills. There are only 150 players, but others may want to believe that it's not the platform. Now, with Kate, there's two players, folks, I'm going to tell you. There's two players. There's Caitlin and there's Angel. Those two don't go by the rules and don't need a union, okay? Angel, like I said, she's about to be making $20, $30 million film. Okay, Caitlin's about to be making the same, doing what Caitlin does. They don't need it, and the union is built there for the players who are going to be on the league minimum or trying to get them protected and trying to get their rights protected, also get their injury protection, get their disability protection, and also get their retirement. That's going to come back to them when they're later in life, that they can actually utilize this, right? So the league is here to build in the benefits, and sometimes the benefits are more than the money, right? And for the ladies to get the money, you have to build an economy. And that's why the league expansion is also moving goods and services and creating a bigger supply chain of goods and services. Now, the final thing that's coming back, right, is Cathy Engelbert was talking about her family, right? Because she's saying, I'm human too. I got kids. I got everything that everybody else has, but here you're defaming me, right? It was almost a point of defamation that could be there, right? But it doesn't look like Cathy Engelbert is approaching that because she understands Napheesa Collier is young. And you got to put your arm around it. I told African-American women, you got to put your arm around that young lady because sometimes you don't want to go up. One thing, like I tell my granddaddy, you don't want to be messing with their money, right? You're messing with the money when you do that. And you don't know who the partners are. And you may be shocked that you may be one day dealing with this. And I always tell people, don't burn a bridge. On the Money Mike Syndicated Radio Podcast, don't burn your bridges because you don't know who's on the other side of that fence because you don't see them, but they're investing heavily. And that's what Cathy Engelbert said. She said, I got these guys investing heavily, all right? And that's a lot of money they didn't put in to build this network out. And it's not going to be every day you're going to get the top five at the table. I mean, you got top five sitting there. You got AT&T, you got Amazon, right? You got to think about that. You got Nike sitting at the table, okay? You got Disney sitting at the table. You got everybody sitting at the table. You got Adam Silver sitting at the table. Okay, everybody's there, so you got to know that. And then on top of that, the league is the Connecticut, and I'll close here, but I want to just jump back on because there's so many legs here. And it really, she shut it down by just saying, hey, I was unaware. That's all she had to do. I was unaware. But from this stage on, I will be fully aware. And as long as they keep that commitment right there, that seals it up. There's nothing else you can do to trump that. Everything else that happened in the past didn't matter. I can tell you didn't follow the formal grievance process, and I can tell the league, because sometimes when you get a suspension, the league could have went in there, well, you can't do it for Cheryl Reeves because she's an employee, of the league. But normally you'd see a situation like leave where she would get suspended or a player got suspended. They would go right back in there. Right? And they would actually grieve that. You're not going to give them 6 games. Oh, okay, we'll cut it down to 3 games, right? So the union should be doing the fighting. And the 2 players, okay, this is when Napheesa Collier's got to get, is the 2 players that you have who are actually under your wing, you got to be fighting for them too. So when they get something goes bad, you got to step in. And that's the part of being a union steward, I guess what you'd call it. But I think they went a little bit ahead. She really called the statements inaccurate. She just said there's a lot of inaccuracies here. And when you do something like that, yeah, you're gonna deal with it, right? You're gonna deal with it. And then you got the Washington Post there. So you got all the big dogs are coming into the race, but they're all gonna be on Cathy's side because she knows who their partners are. And it seems to me that Napheesa Collier has a great opportunity if you're growing Unrivaled to grow your business, but you're gonna have to be in relationship with the NBA to do it, or else you're going to have an adverse relationship, which means you'll have an adverse relationship with the partners of the WNBA. This is the Money Mike Syndicated Radio Podcast, folks. I want to bring that to you. This one here, the WNBA players have to engage. They're going to have to go through a tremendous amount of training, and they're going to understand what conduct detrimental means and how it can become a breach of your contract or terminate your contract. And when you look at it from a different lane, some of this stuff, you're right, there's too much to cover in an hour, right? You need about 10 hours and just keep going because there's so many different issues that are on the table besides building out the economy that the women are building, which is money. They want to make more money. They want to make more money, meaning let's remove money and just say they want to build a bigger economy of awareness and be able to showcase their talent. But they have to do it under the umbrella of the league. And when you're out the league, then it's hard to get back in and do what needs to be done because now your name is not as visible. On the WNBA platform, the players' names, images, and likeness, they're visible every day. And without that, you're going to lose your vision, and that'll be hard to maintain. So it's a great weekend, everybody. Good college football day. Got a little NFL. 49ers, man, we kicking it in, 4-1. Talk to me. Best in the league, America's team. We'll see you soon.